Okay. Go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our super informal Tarot Pro Biz Talk with Christiana Gaudet and myself, Jenna Matlin. Thank you so much for coming. This is going to just be a conversation about the day in the life of us, talking about things that we see really impact other pro readers, people wanting to go pro. And this conversation is being moderated by Rix. He is in the group chat. So if you have questions or things that you would like to maybe discuss, please put it in the group chat. You've all been muted and your video is off. But you can definitely post in the chat box and Rix will bring our attention to it and we will see it. Hi, Lorene. Excited to have you here too.
Yes. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. So, yeah, I think that's about it. That's kind of the intro. We are recording this, so you can upload this later. We'll let you all know, and you can keep it forever. So yeah, Christiana, hi, how you doing?
I am well. I'm happy to be here. Of course, this is in advance of our co-teaching our Pro Development Day at the Northwest Tarot Symposium in March. I'm very excited about that and happy to be having this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about a whole day in March just to talk business. I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like there's just, I mean, you love business, I love business, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of conversations around business in the tarot community, though it seems like the demand is there, that a lot of people that are learning tarot and love tarot want to be doing it on a part-time basis, right? Or want to go full-time.
Sure.
What would you say to those folks that have that desire? Do you think they can do it?
It depends who they are. Not everyone can. This is not a gig for everyone. And see, this is the thing, is I really believe in my heart, and you and I have talked about this before, and I know you agree with me. I really believe in my heart that tarot is for everyone, that we all benefit from tarot, that we can all find a way to use tarot in some way or another. I do not believe that everyone is cut out to be a tarot professional. That said, I feel like it's sort of a self-limiting thing because, and that's, the thing I will say to my students who say, well, I think I want to go pro, is I'll set them up for a day reading for the cattle call. Tell me how you feel after that. If you still want to go pro, we're in, But the other thing is that when we talk about being a pro reader, there are so many ways that can be. Jenna, you and I are very unusual in that we are full-time readers with really no other visible means of support. We don't have a yoga studio. We are not musicians. And that's the thing. I think for a lot of professional tarotists, they have something else. They also teach yoga. They also do massage therapy. They have a regular day job. And that's all great. Tarot work is fabulous because you can fit it in with all of that. But you and I are relatively unique in the world. Not completely. Obviously, there are plenty of us. But I don't know a lot of people besides you who are just full-time doing it day to day, every day.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't realize that we were as rare as we actually are. Like, I thought there would be a lot more people doing it because I think the demand is there. The demand is completely there from the population. And I think the demand is growing, especially as tarot it's having a moment right now. It's definitely big within the popular cultural zeitgeist. And the more uncertain life is, the more people call on us. And life is really uncertain right now. There's a lot of
that's a thought. Yeah.
So I think that the demand is there. And the demand is there for good readers that are excellent at what they do, but also treat their business like a business. You know, I've heard these stories of other people that were like, oh yeah, I wanted to get a reading with this reader, but she like rescheduled with me for three different times. And then she was late to call me. And then like, it was really confusing about how to pay her. And it was like this really big thing. And a lot of people have come to, I don't know, accept bad business practices as like the norm, or has been the norm in tarot. So I think there's so much room for really competent, beautiful readers to provide an important service that's needed. It's the niche is there. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, you know, I would go as far as to say this: I do not believe there will ever be market saturation on this. Because no matter what, if you are a good reader, people are going to seek you out. You know, that's just the way it is. But likewise, if you're a mediocre reader, it's going to be hard to get business. I think that it is one of those things where you have to bring your A game every time you're at the table. And if you do that, you will have business no matter what, even if you're on a street lined with fabulous readers.
Yes. What you just said was so important. You have to bring your A game. You cannot be like, oh, I'm having a bad day, or, oh, I'm sick. Like, you have to be present. And you have to, it's just such a high level thing when you're doing readings. Like when I thought about it, I was like, I'm expending a lot of like cognitive bandwidth, because not only am I giving the reading, I'm trying to deliver it within a time frame. I'm trying to deliver it in a way that I think that person is going to hear it. So not only do you have like that intuitive download of like, this is what I'm getting, it's also, okay, I'm sensing resistance. How do I maybe change my language in a way that this person can hear? How do I have them leave and feel empowered or helped in some way? And do it all within a half an hour. Do it all within an hour, when they're like saying things like, well, you're the psychic, you tell me while I'm here. And then now you got to do that. So, you know what I mean? So it's like you have three different brains all processing three different
at the same time.
Information all at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's not like any other job that I can think of, except maybe if you're like an actor on stage. You're like that.
You don't have to be psychic.
Yeah,
you have to be. I mean, because you and I both have a theater background too, I think.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there is like, you do have to be aware of what the other people on stage are doing and play with them. So there is an intuitive piece there.
I like how you just did that little Shakespearean kind of like.
Like that?
Yeah, I did. I love it. So yeah, I agree. Like, you have to have your A game. So it does require a way to be able to compartmentalize whatever's going on in other areas of your life. So can everyone see me and hear me? Rix, can you see me and hear me? I think I just totally froze. Did you?
Now I can hear you again, but all of that other stuff, no, I could not hear.
Okay,
when you're doing distance tarot readings for people, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, I do a lot of that. Do you do a lot of that?
Yeah.
That can happen there too. And so your fourth brain has to be dealing with the technology, you know, and is the technology working? And if it's not, can you hold the container of the reading while you hang up and call back and hold the energy? So there's that piece of it too, which
right.
we just saw.
So that's interesting. When we were chatting before we kind of went live, we talked about the difference about how we want to spend our day. Like, so I was telling Christiana that in a typical day, I do about 4 hours of reading in a day, 4 to 5. I start getting cranky after that. Like, that's my sweet spot. But for me, I don't like a break. So I will do like, from, 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock at night without a break, not even to use a bathroom. And for me, I like to just kind of stay in that area, in that space. Maybe that's because I cut my teeth on festival and party readings. Maybe.
Sure.
But for me, like I find it, or maybe it's the Gemini in me that I find like I get too fragmented if I'm dropping in and out of reading space too much throughout the day. But you're different. You're kind of more spread out, right?
I really am. And this is a funny thing because I used to do a lot of parties. I still do a great deal. And I do these tours, as you know, where I will work from morning till night straight through, so I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the greatest luxury for me is to have space in between readings. And so, like, I may, if I have, and I also like 4 or 5 hours a day, 4 or 5 billable hours, and then I've got 4 or 5 hours to write and do administrative stuff or whatever. But like tomorrow, my first client is at 8:30. My last client will end at 9 p.m.
Wow.
I'll have hours in between. I've got, and if I have to book them close, I will. If a client wants to come in and that means they're right up against another one, I'll do it. But my preference is to have 15 minutes, half an hour at least in between clients. And at certain times of the day, 2 or 3 hours where I can get a meal, where I can do some writing. I like to pop in and out of that space.
So we both have offices where we see people, and I know that we both do distance readings. Do you just do distance readings at your office? So are you at your office from 8:30 to 9? Or are you popping in and out of your office? How does that work for you?
It's been different at different times, but my commitment to myself right now, because I've got the nicest office I have ever had in my life. I love my office.
Yeah, I love my office too.
And so my commitment to myself and to my husband is that I will not read at home. Now, could I? I could. Mm-hmm. But, for most of our married life, that's been the thing, is I've had also a home office. And so I may be home, but I'm still home and reading. And so that means that there's no space where I'm just off work. And so now, even if I'm at home and someone calls me in for a phone reading, I'm going to get in my car and drive the 10 minutes to my office and do the reading in my office because I can. And that just makes me happy.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I still play with that. Like if I have a lot of distance sessions that I don't have to go into the office for, I won't. But then I've been thinking like maybe I want to start spending more time in my office because I usually do all my administrative work, all my writing, everything is in the home office. And then I do go to the office when I see people in person or I'm teaching classes or that kind of thing. But I'm always like trying to toggle, like what works for me now spatially. Maybe I need to switch it up or switch things up because, that brings me to something else. It's like as self-employed readers, no one else is motivating us, right? Except us.
When you work for yourself, the boss is a bitch.
She's a goddamn ball buster, this lady. She doesn't let up, man. It's true.
It's true. It's true.
But when there are times like that, I mean, it just, we're human. We're like not feeling as motivated or we're approaching burnout or we're like, oh God, if we get one more person telling us about this guy named Joey hasn't called her back in 6 months. Is he coming back? I'm going to shoot myself in the head. Like, there's times when we have to take care of ourselves and also make adjustments within our business to bring our own best performance out. And we are the only ones that can figure out how to do that. There's no boss or manager that's going to sit down with us and walk us through that process. So I think
we don't have supervision, right?
Right. And we don't have, if we do have mentors, they're not people that are sitting in the same space with us, able to see how we're performing and giving us good feedback. That'd be great. You want to come out to Philly? You can come.
We could do that. So I had a comment about something you said earlier, thinking about spending more time in the office. Mm-hmm. I have very often had it where, just like you, I would do distance readings and writing and admin from my home office and just tootle on in to see people in the office. And that's all I ever did in the office. You know that I'm a huge believer in the energy and magic of the tarot business. And that's part of what I teach is to, we're magical people. We should be doing magic as part of our business. So here's some magic I discovered. If I freaking show up at my office, I have more business. I can look at my, I love graphs and pie charts, how we doing. I can tell how much time I spent in the office, having nothing to do with how many calls I took or who's coming in. But if I'm in the office, I make more money. It is a psychic thing with the world, whether or not I check in on Facebook, no matter what. John, who is my husband and my business partner, believes that my clients across the world can just smell that when I get into the office, it's time.
That's funny.
The only explanation for this is psychic and magical, but it's true.
I feel like, you know what?
So if you're having a time,
I think that's such a great point. But I do want to share that it seems like whenever I'm about to go on vacation or otherwise not available is when everybody needs an emergency reading right now. Like that's like, this is the last week I'm reading, and then I'm taking a 2 weeks like sabbatical for the rest of December to do like back end stuff, but also to rest because January is going to hit like a bomb went off. I won't breathe again until June. So I tend to like to try to take December, but I am booked solid this week. I have people begging to have me read them. And I'm like, where were you in that week after Thanksgiving, man? When I was
totally man. Yep. There is that. But now, you bring up an interesting thing, and I would love to hear what you have to say about this. And also, if anyone wants to chat in on this, this is a great debate amongst many of the pro readers I know. Is there such a thing as a psychic emergency? I say there is, but I know many readers who say no. If you have an emergency, go to the emergency room. There is no psychic emergency. I disagree. I think there is. What do you think? Are there psychic emergencies?
Define psychic emergency.
I need you right now. Absolutely right now. It's got to be now. It's got to be soon. This is an emergency, the kind of thing. And I know you have a special rate for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I do. If people want that emergency reading, they pay more for me to make sure that I am clearing whatever it is that I've got going on that day or making sure I'm getting them in. So for me, it's not about like taking advantage of people, but it's about I need to have some sanity and have some boundaries. So if you want me to make sure that I'm here for you, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to train my clients to think that they can just call me day of and then I'm just going to take them. And then when you can't, they kind of throw a fit. You know what I mean? That's in my experience.
I have been asked to do readings while driving. Yeah. I had a client ask me if I could just take her to the bathroom with me. She's a phone client, and she had really extended beyond the amount of time I had for her, which she was willing to pay for. That wasn't the problem. But I was like, I have a hard stop now. I really have to stop. And she's like kind of whining about it. And I said, look, because we know each other well. And I said, look, here's the deal. I have 5 minutes before my next client, and my choice is talk to you or pee. And I'm going to pee. And she's like, okay, you just take me with you? No, I cannot.
That's so
well, interestingly, this conversation has got us the most chat so far. So Benabel chimed in. She says, I think there are psychic emergencies where a reading on the energies right now are instrumental. So you don't go beyond the point of no return event-wise without the divinatory info that you need.
Very well said. I concur completely.
Yeah, could you guys give some examples in terms of like what you've seen is like where the energies of the moment were critical to the reading and what the querent needed?
Certainly major decision making about career stuff. I have 2 job offers and I have to choose one tomorrow. And obviously we're not here to make decisions for people, but to look at what are the energies of this job versus that job before you have to choose one, that's time sensitive. It's, there are some things that are just time sensitive.
I would also say, like, hi, Annabelle, by the way. I'm so happy you're here.
Yes, it's good to have you here.
I would say, like, on some sense, I feel like I am a psychic ER triage nurse most of the time. So I feel like when people do come, they're often at like a level 7 to 10 on the anxiety level. Like anxiety and fear drive readings. As much as I hate to say that, it's true. And so I'm not a therapist, but what I do is we use the tarot to, okay, you've come into the urgent care. What's urgent? What do we need to look at? How do I patch you up and keep you going? So that's one thing I will say. And that's another reason why I think boundaries and pacing is important, because, in my 4-hour day, I can deal with 4 to 8 very, very critical, high level, salient things going on with these people. It's not just like, oh, how was your random week? It's like, I'm about to get divorced. I'm about to lose my job. I'm about to sell my house. Like everything are all at these critical nexus points that we use tarot for. So I think that's part of the psychic emergency. But the other aspect of psychic emergency is when there's been how do I explain it? Like a crack in your own reality. For example, maybe you've been in a hostile relationship that you've enabled, and just today something happened that broke that or cracked that. Then the reading can start doing this and help you from going back under the waves of that programming. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining
Sure.
it clearly.
No, I totally get that. When there are moments when people are open for healing, and if you can get them in that moment, you can really get a lot of work done. If you get them after that moment, you can still work with them, but there are moments where it's very helpful.
Isn't that crazy when you have those moments? It's like the ray of the heavens is opened up on the reading and you realize, I think this reading has just shifted the whole trajectory of this person's life. Like, it's just incredible.
Well, and they'll tell you. The greatest thing about being where I'm at, I've been doing this now full time for, I think, like a quarter century. And so I've got people that have been with me all that time. And I read for young people whose births I predicted. And they're now old enough to have readings with me. I read for families where members of the family are now in spirit, and I'm still reading for them, but using a different skill now. And so you can see that, and you can look back at that trajectory and how, in a small way, but in a very profound way, we become a part of people's families and people's stories and people's lives in a very real way over time.
Yeah, I agree. So I love what we do, by the way. I just love what I do. I love it so much.
So pulling in on the family idea, Donna DeRoma chimed in to say, it's like being a mom. You're always on. I think that comment came when you were talking about the choice between using the bathroom or extended 5 minutes. Sequoia brings up an interesting question. What do you think about the feeling that a client might obsessively be needing a reading due to what they perceive as an emergency? Jenna, you mentioned being an ER nurse and triaging. How do you balance those, what the querent feels is the need and what you see is maybe like a different need that's going on, and how the querent's anxieties, how you manage all of that, and what are your feelings and thoughts on that?
Well, I'll take that first. So, well, for me in my practice, I have, my regular prices, and then I have the emergency price. And sometimes people pay the emergency price, and then we'll get connected, and I'll be like, is everything okay? And they're like, oh yeah, everything's fine. I just didn't want to wait for a reading. So for me, it's like, if you want to pay to have me like set aside time, I can do that. But I also always have the option to say yes or no. So if I'm heading to the store or I'm dealing with something else and I just don't have time, I just don't have time. So from a spirit perspective, energetic perspective, sometimes people are like, no, I really need to know. I need to really know. And then I'm like, I just can't fit you in even at the higher price. I'm so sorry. But then what I find is if they've waited a couple days, usually there is something more important and necessary that needed to be actually revealed to them before the reading happened. So sometimes I have to like kind of trust the universe's timing on that. So a lot of times if they are needing the reading, then I might say, what's your anxiety level like? And I might take a moment to kind of touch base with their anxiety level rather than the emergency. Like, is it really an emergency? Or are you just at DEFCON 4 anxiety and you're having a hard time grounding? That's another thing that you can do. What do you think, Christiana?
Well, that takes me on a trajectory towards psychic addiction.
Aha. Yes.
Which is a real thing and something I think we have to be really careful about. When we talk about having regular clients, I have some clients that are regular. I see them once a year or 4 times a year. Others I see once a month. I've got some people I do see on a weekly basis. And, if you're going to be a weekly client of mine, I need to make sure that we're doing real work. And this is not, feeding something unhealthy. And there's a place where a person's, you've used the word anxiety a lot. And, certainly anxiety is a medical diagnosis. We are not doctors. We cannot make diagnoses. But yeah, it's a thing. And people will come to us because they're having issues with anxiety. I think that psychic addiction comes when people, it's a secondary thing, it's a symptom. They're addicted to a belief in something that is not true. And so they try to use psychics, readings, to prop up that belief, right? So psychic addiction is second to another addiction that is born of anxiety. And it is the desire to make something be true that is not.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, you and I both have lived and do live in parts of the country where we have a significant proportion of the storefront readers.
Yes, the neon psychics.
The neon psychics.
Talk about
and
those.
You know how many clients I get that are like, well, I saw the neon psychic and they told me that even though he's moved across country and he's changed his phone or he's in jail for life, they told me he's coming back.
Mm-hmm. 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 And these are otherwise intelligent people. That is the thing that is, I think, very important for us to understand, is that people who are intelligent, functional human beings, these are not crazy people. These are normal people like you and me who get tied up in this, and it's a scary thing.
Right. So they've been kind of fed something that they want to believe, and other people have done it from they're making money off of them, keep coming back, but of course, within them, there is some kind of cognitive dissonance, which is why they keep looking for readings.
Right.
They're looking on, their higher self is saying, no, this isn't it. We're going to keep searching until you hear what it is that needs to be heard by someone who's going to take good care of you, Right. So, yeah, that's really, really an interesting place to be. I've had so many clients that are like, well, I had to pay like $7,000, pick a number, for candles, blessings. I've heard things like, I was told I was a child molester in a previous life. Can you believe that?
I had one who paid a lot of money to keep her dead son from doing drugs in heaven. And again, otherwise intelligent individual.
Right. They're convincing. And some of them are legitimately clairvoyant. But being clairvoyant doesn't necessarily mean you're 100% ethical in everything you say that now comes out of your mouth is right.
Any one of us could do this scam if we wanted to. We don't do this scam because we're decent human beings.
Donna, it is illegal. Well, in the state of PA, fortune telling is a misdemeanor. It's a law without teeth here. I think they mostly keep it out on the books when they want to like try to sweep the neon readers clean. But part of the problem is that when people are victimized, they are embarrassed. They don't go to...
And afraid.
Yeah, they're afraid.
They're going to put a curse on me.
Right, right.
You know, and then you break your shoe or your car breaks down and you lose your job. See, that was the curse, see?
If their curses were, Christiana, you and I would not be here.
We would be dead.
We would be in a ditch. But I'm still going to knock on wood. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like laugh in the face of fates. But so I think that brings us to another thing about why so many of us, I mean, I use my legal name. You use your legal name. Like we're very open. But there are a lot of people who've decided to stay within the tarot box. And they use aliases because they're afraid of like social backlash.
Or because they have a straight job. You know, there are people, I think one right within this room, who have high-level straight jobs where they can't cross it over. You know, they just can't. We're lucky in that, you know, I mean, I've been picketed. I've had people come and picket my office and stuff. But
have you really? Oh my God. What?
Oh, sure. I bought them coffee. Thanked them for promoting my business.
I mean, I've been dropped from banks. I have not been added as members to like local business associations. Like in so many ways, it's like, well, what you do is not real and you're a shyster. But then when you try to professionalize, they bar you from entry. It's like this catch-22. It's like really, really crazy. So I think that the more of us there are that are professional, we're above board, we give great readings, we're helpful, then we're going to shift, I think, the bias and stigma as a whole. And I think it's happening, wouldn't you say? I mean, just in the last, 5 years, there has been what feels like a much greater like acceptance and opening to tarot than I've noticed in a while before.
I think so. It so depends. And I've always just been really loud and proud with it. And so I still draw some fire, but probably not as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it's so, like Mary says, she works as a day job in HR and she was so paranoid of letting the wires cross. If tarot was seen in the way that I think it should be, which is it's a beautiful, helpful, mystical modality that supports people in living their best lives, why would we possibly need to hide it? Would we hide the fact that we're maybe a physical, like a football coach at night? Maybe we moonlight as an accountant. Like, why are these things okay, but not this? And I really personally, I really hope that the culture keeps shifting around this because I have had a lot of jobs in my life. I've never been as honest, as authentic, as real, nor as helpful as I am in this business.
Fact.
Wherein a society treats me with the most suspicion. It's a weird place to be in. Wouldn't you agree?
I completely agree. And I think it's a good point as we speak to those who are aspiring tarot professionals to recognize that, one of the things you're going to come across is bigotry against you, and your friend who's the hairdresser is not going to have that. Your friend who's the massage therapist is not going to have that, but you're going to have that. And it comes up in financial ways. When my husband started a side business doing tech stuff, his rates for his credit card processing were much, much lower than mine, even though I'd been in business for 10 years and he was a brand new business. There it is.
Yeah.
So, but I hate this, but in a way I don't mind it, because what it means is if you're there, if you're doing it, if you're doing the job, you're doing it because you love it and because you're good at it, because only a fool would do it otherwise. And I don't mean like a tarot fool. I mean like
like a legit fool. I have a question for you, Christiana. Did you, when you rented your office, were you just like, yeah, I read tarot, what's up? Let me rent this. Like, was there a dance around this?
Well, that brings up a whole kind of issue about business licensing in Florida.
Uh-huh.
Because in different towns, there are different rates, the business tax that you have to pay annually, depending on what you do. And in many towns, the rates for a fortune teller are very, very high. For instance, when I had an office in West Palm Beach, the rates for a fortune teller, $1,300 a year for your business tax. That's to discourage the neon psychics. So I was able to convince them that I am a consultant. And so they charged me the rate that they charge a consultant, which was like $150, $150 for the year. Big difference. So in dealing with this landlord coming in, I basically I had a good rapport with her right away. And I basically did I'm a consultant thing. I'm a personal consultant. And I use tarot cards in my consultancy. And that seems to work.
That's good. That's good. I know that my building was bought and sold during the time I've been there, and I was like, oh man, like I was real cool with the last landlord. And I was like, like, oh, I hope I get someone cool. I was lucky that I did, But for me, it is kind of like this dance. Like, this is what I do. Come and see what I do. Like, I don't want you to think I'm like whatever self preconceptive notion you have about what I do. But it was funny when I got into my apartment, I had to kind of explain what I was doing to my landlord, but now he comes to my office and I pay him rent out of my office. I'm like, here you go. Here's cash for the rent. Like, and everyone's cool. But I feel that I'm lucky. I mean, that's the one thing about living in the Northeast is that even though you have the neon sign readers, there's a lot of tolerance that I don't think other people in other areas of the country would have.
Yeah. And, I have had that same privilege. I'm in Florida, but, they say the further south you go, the more north you get. And so I'm just in New York with warm weather, really, is what the deal is where I am. But it's true. I don't think it would be as easy for us to do what we do if we were in, say, Oklahoma. And so I know there are plenty of tarotists all over the country. So the question is, how would someone who is starting their tarot business in some Bible Belt kind of a place, how would they do it?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of them are, just doing readings online or from home because they cannot and do not want to deal with the backlash. I mean, the struggle is real. But I've always said to myself, the moment someone tries to stop me from my business is the moment I'm on the phone to the ACLU.
Yeah, right.
Because this is a violation of my rights.
Right. And, that happens. And in fact, I started my business in Connecticut right after a reader who was just retiring had won that legal battle. Tarot reading was completely illegal in Connecticut.
Wow.
And of course, it's a First Amendment thing. If you live in a place where it is illegal, you can challenge that law and win. In fact, Heather Cooper, is that her name?
Yes.
Just in West Virginia.
She was in West Virginia. Yeah, she had to fight for it too.
Yes, absolutely. And we hear about some of our peers and colleagues going through this in different places. But the fact is the First Amendment stands. And so if you are in a place where there's going to be that kind of backlash, you may have to be prepared. I mean, you know my mayor story from Fortune Stellar.
Mm-hmm.
I got called to the mayor's office, and I was so sure he was going to tell me to cease and desist. In fact, he wanted a free reading, which I gave him. The mayor asks for a free reading, you give it. But there is, I think there is always the fear of social backlash and the fear of legal backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And it can happen. So once again, I don't mean to discourage anyone from this path. Jenna and I together really like to teach tarot readers and really like to support tarot readers. But I'm not going to lie to you. It is not the easiest path for a lot of reasons. And you got to be willing to deal with all of that.
Donna asks how you go about finding out what the laws are in your state. And obviously we can't address all 50 states right here and now.
Right.
Can you tell us about the struggles you two went through and understanding where you stand with the legality of your locale?
My thing, okay, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think the Tarot Association has collated the legalities of fortune telling by state. There is a document running around that's open source. And that's how I found out about Pennsylvania. I was like, oh, it's illegal what I'm doing. Oh, well, my state also knows that the name of my business is Queen of Wands Tarot, and that's how I pay them taxes under Queen of Wands Tarot. They don't seem to be complaining about the money I'm filling their state tax office coffers with. So there is that. I'm trying to see if there's like a different place.
When I first started, I just went to town hall and asked.
Oh, that's true. You could do that too.
Yeah, just go to town hall. But now, I'm a little older and wiser. When I came to Florida, I visited with an attorney and asked an attorney what do I need to be aware of and what do I need to do?
So I want to make sure, let me just start kind of bringing this to kind of this free form conversation to a close, and just let everybody know that Christiana and I are planning on probably doing this 2 more times, like a conversation in January and February, just to kind of drum up interest and kick off the amazing, professional all-day extension that we're doing in Portland.
Yes. And, so that's the deal. Wherever you are, they make airplanes. You can come to Portland. If you want to come for the whole, it's a 4-day thing, you can do that. If you want to come just for the 2 days and us, you can do that. If you want to come just for us on that Monday, you can do that. But we've got a whole day from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. where we are going through a lot of technical stuff, a lot of spiritual stuff, a lot of performance stuff. Wherever you are in your tarot business, whether you've been working for a while and want to take it to the next level, or whether you're just starting out, we've got something for you that I think is really going to light you on fire.
Yeah, and Jay and Jadzia are also going to be part of that. So there's going to be 4 of us in a small group. We are having these kind of roundtable discussions, and each table will have a professional. So you're going to get a lot of one-on-one time where you can answer all your questions and feel like you're getting a lot of help. And I love that we get to do that. Like, I love it. I love what I do. I mean, I know we talk about the tough stuff, but the thing is every industry has its challenges. And if you feel called to do this work, if you feel that this is the thing that lights you on fire, then by George, you can do it. It's possible. We are the living people and embodiment of that life.
Yeah.
So yes, keep an eye out for the 2 other meetings that we will be having before March in the same format in Zoom. And so I want to kind of spend the rest of our time maybe fielding any questions. You guys have been I thought I'd be just seeing walls of text in the group chat, but everyone's just been really kind of quiet and listening. So if you have any questions, now would be the time. I'd like to devote as much time to that as possible. And about it, anything about what we've discussed or anything about your own tarot business, we'd be happy to weigh in.
Absolutely.
We're concentrating on the goodness, you guys.
Well, I've been interrupting you guys for questions, but there's been a lot of supportive comments as well. People just chiming in to agree with what you're saying.
I don't know if that's goodness as much as just shop talk, but I guess that's what we're here to do. I think a lot of questions that I hear from people are about how do you go from amateur, I read tarot, I'm reading for my friends, I'm doing all that. How do you take that leap from amateur to professional? How does that go? How did that happen for you, Jenna?
The leap from amateur to professional, I think I have to be honest that my story is a little different. I mean, I picked up a deck of tarot cards at 14. And by 19, I was reading out of a local New Age bookstore.
But that's the answer. Go to a New Age bookstore.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the
true.
answer right there. Mine was like it there.
Yeah, so for the 20 years, I was like, oh, people would find out about me, or I'd do like a random party, but I had my day job. But I think for me, even though it seems like everyone wants to hide behind a computer screen, everyone wants to just work online only, I have to tell you, people are far kinder in person than they are online.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So if you think that you're saving yourself by being online and hiding, no, people are actually far kinder face to face. So, you call up the local hairdresser. Hey, I'm a local reader. Do you ever do events, or do you want a reader to come in on maybe like a Friday evening blowout? I can do 3 cards. It's about being enterprising and not worrying that people tell you no.
Right, you have to ask everybody. Yes, ask everybody. If that person says no, ask the next one. So now we've got some questions.
All right.
There's a lot rolling in here. When are the next 2 Zoom meetings? Sequoia asks.
In the future.
We haven't set them up yet, but we'll let you guys know. We'll post everything as soon as we figured it out.
Mary asks how you refresh yourselves on your reading skills.
That is a good question. I run a tarot meetup, and I really enjoy, and I get probably more out of that meetup than anyone else there does, just being in a situation where you're doing exercises with other people is very, very helpful. That's one way. Another way is to just learn from each reading, I think. That's for me. Jenna?
I refresh by going to conferences, honestly. That is my time for me. And I have a big journal, and I'm just exploding with oh my God, yeah, there's a new technique. I typically read new books, but that's kind of what I do to at least refresh and recharge my approach is how I do it. Yeah.
I'm going to chime in on this if you guys don't mind, because Lynn also asked about taking the plunge with festivals. I'm going to call myself a semi-pro because I've been brought in under Jenna's mantle doing readings at parties for Queen of Wands Tarot, and just doing readings over and over and over keeps you fresh and sharp. I liked what you said, Christiana, that you learn from the readings, you learn from these experiences. You'll see your lexicon grow with each new reading. Oh, I didn't realize this card could mean that in these circumstances. So that I think that those two kind of tie in together. Lynn, I would say go for it if you have the opportunity.
Has he frozen for you as well?
He has.
Jenna's got a great book.
Wait, fix. You froze. You're going to have to go back 30 seconds.
Oh, no, it's gone. It's lost now.
Sorry.
Allison asks, how do you market yourselves primarily online or locally?
Both, always both. I'm worldwide and I'm local.
Yeah, Christiana's more worldwide than I am. I would say I'm pretty nationwide, but I started off with local and then kind of built out from there. And I think that I don't think we have time to get into marketing strategy tonight because there are so many different ways to go about it. There's no one right way. But I think you can do both. For me, I found starting local and basically saturating my area with Jenna, and then moving out was the way to go for me. I'll take this other one. I see it. Debbie, are you concerned about safety in your office, especially if you aren't familiar with a new client? I'll take this one. In my office, I have auto locking mechanisms on my doors. So, and I read late at night, right? So at 9 o'clock, all the doors are locked. The other thing is I've actually never been in a situation in my office where I felt unsafe. But I do feel like Rick's, who's my partner, let's all we're sharing, right? Everything is on my calendar that he can see. So he knows who I'm seeing. He has their information. So if he doesn't hear from me or I don't come home, we know who's been in the office. There's nobody else coming in except who's been on the ledger. But it hasn't been anything that I feel has been a major issue for me so far. What about you, Christiana?
I've never been worried about it. I do have a very similar system as you do. I also have a husband involved in my business, and he knows when to expect me. I also have a smart speaker. So if I have a client, and I do have a lot of male clients, and I do consider the fact that I'm a female, I'm alone in an office. Sometimes there's no one else. I'm in a 2-story office building, no one else in the building because it's late at night, right, but me and this dude that I've never met before. It's a concern, right?
Yeah.
I never feel concerned, but I have a smart speaker. She's in the other room, so I can say, Alexa, call 911 if I have to. I've never had to.
Right. I actually have had uncomfortable situations at parties when people have been drinking.
Yes.
That's a different story.
Yes. I had to hightail it out of parties a couple times.
Yeah, that is a whole other kettle of wax, a ball of wax. But I feel like I don't personally feel like have felt threatened. I mean, I felt when dudes are into me, like I'll definitely get that energy, but I shut it down, you know?
I use it in the reading. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you're crazy. Oh, God. What's next, Rick? Do you have another question for us?
Well, actually, since you're just talking about parties, Donna just chimed in with a new one. I'm assuming people at parties don't take the reading seriously. Is that right or incorrect?
No, that's definitely not right. Even if the party is there for fun and it's a Halloween party or whatever, the readings are serious and the people are often there to take it seriously. Some of them not so much, and some of them may think it's lighthearted in the beginning, and then by the time they're done, they take it seriously. But no, I would not say that.
Or you mean by the time I'm done with them, they take it seriously?
Damn straight.
Yeah, I know. Don't you love it when you get someone like that, and they're like, ha, and then you're just looking at them, and you're like shuffling, and you're like, let's see how this is going to go, buddy.
In fact, at a party, you can be too good. I did a Halloween party and they went all out. They had great costumes, all of that. And I think they really thought I was just a stage person. And the fact is, the couple hosting the party, they were having horrible marital troubles. And of course, that's all that's in their cards. I have the whole family crying. This is a party. I really tried to keep it light. I tried to keep it happy. I did my best. Yeah. But, you got to read the cards. What's in the cards? Yeah. There it is. I was not invited back the following year. Sometimes you can do good.
Yeah, tarot doesn't care where the hell you are. It's going to say what it wants to say. Yeah, that's so true. It's so true.
I wanted to address psychic hygiene. I think it was Sequoia asked a question about psychic hygiene.
Oh, okay.
It's so freaking important. When I like to hang out online in the chat groups and the tarot groups and whatnot, tarot nerds, tarot professionals, Readers Academy, I like those groups. And often I hear people saying, oh, I just did a few readings and now I'm drained. And I want to shake them because what they're not doing is good psychic hygiene. This is really important. Everyone has their own way of doing it. But if you're tired after a tarot reading, it's because your psychic hygiene sucks and it needs to be better. That's what I have to say. Can I share real quick how I do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, real quick. Ground, energy up, out the crown, connect to spirit, invite spirit in. So now you're connected to heaven and earth, and you run that energy through you just like the magician. When you do your reading, you are giving nothing of yourself and you are taking nothing from your client. You are a straw. You are a conduit for the limitless and abundant energy that there is. You will never get tired. You will never take on your client's stuff.
You know, when you just did that, do you know what burpees are? Do you know
Yes.
what burpees are? It just looked like you did like a spiritual burpee.
I love that. I'm going to use that. I love that. That's fabulous because
brought it up.
I don't do any real burpees.
Let's do spiritual burpees, y'all. That's awesome.
Jill asks, when do you know that you're good enough to stop practicing on people and start charging? And what's a decent rate for a beginner?
Very good. I want Jenna to answer the rate question because she's brilliant at this. I would say, you're ready is when people start bringing you gifts. You know, they know, they just inherently know that there's an exchange necessary and they bring you stuff. Jenna?
I think when you're good enough is when people keep telling you how good you are and how amazing you are and how like you have to start beating them off with a stick. What is a decent rate for a beginner? So my litmus test is I peg myself within reason around what a massage therapist charges. So a very, very beginning massage therapist after going to school, she's making around 35 to 40 for an hour. And then that typically goes up to 150 an hour. But I think that as a reader, you can also extend past that. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a danger in pricing yourself too low.
Oh, God, yes.
Then you'll never be able to pull yourself out of that. Like people will be like, well, you used to charge 25, and that was 5 years ago. So you should only be charging 35 now. So you want to make sure that you're not pricing yourself too low. And also when you price yourself low, then you're going to get a low quality client. Because there's no real skin in the game. And the higher your prices are, the more serious the clients are, the more they're going to respect your work. And then also, the more you're able to support yourself. So I would say starting out 30 to 40, maybe even a little higher, because also pricing, it depends on where you are demographically. In New York City, you're going to charge more than if you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like these are all things. So that's why I say, price it to what you see massage therapists in your area are probably charging, especially if you're working local to hit that demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can we talk real quick? Lynn wants to know about taking the plunge in restaurants. She says she's approached management at 3 different mid to high level restaurants. They're all interested, but she isn't ready. So here's a woman who has gigs and doesn't feel ready to do it. What would I need for that? What do you think?
Confidence. You're reaching out, Lynn. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Getting the gig is the hard part. Working the gig is the easy part, I think.
Sorry, I was trying to read through the messages, so I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So I apologize. I don't have anything witty to add. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I would just say, Lynn, just go for it. Seriously. You know, when I was first starting to do those things many, many years ago, I was so nervous. I would be shaking. Sometimes I would literally throw up before a gig. I was so afraid, but I did it anyway. And going to ask for the gigs is so much harder than just going to work them. So just go.
Yeah, I think, I think it's good to kind of zero in. I mean, restaurants is one thing, but I would actually zero in on small scale boutiques. So like small fashion boutiques in your area. I've had people reach out to me, like little jewelry stores or like just little like tchotchke like stores that are run by women. Another thing you can do is be brave enough and add yourself into women business like meetups that are like interchanges, where you're getting to meet other female business owners and also brick and mortar store female owners. You might also want to look at like where tourists tend to go to in your town. Like where I live, like there are little streets that are filled with cute shops, and they do things like First Fridays. I've had like curio shops hire me to do First Fridays for a few hours.
Right.
Um,
Lynn wants to know if she should set up a table or walk table to table. I would definitely say set up a table, let them come to you. I'll do table floating, but only if I'm hired to do it.
Yeah, I think if you can set up a table, that's better, because if you're walking table to table, unless the people have done this kind of thing before, you are having to manage space around people getting up and going to the bathroom, waiters and waitresses, hosts and hostesses. There's not actually a lot of space in most restaurants between tables, so having a dedicated space is good. Also, if people have if they are private with you, they tend to be more honest about what they want to know, and they're more open with the sharing, versus like, oh my God, my mother-in-law is here, but I guess I can't ask about Brad, because so that allows them to have that space to really, really get, because for me, festival work, party work, any of these things are just my calling card to get people to my office.
Yes, exactly.
If I can get 30 people in a night to sit down for 5 minutes, that is all a commercial or infomercial or whatever you want to call it to get them to come to my office and spend an hour with me. Right. So for me, that's always the goal, is always trying to kind of take this more casual experience into one that's going to be deeper and more helpful for them ultimately. Wouldn't you say, Christiana?
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
Benabel chimed in to say, offer to read for free at events hosted by your local Chamber of Commerce. All the businesses in your area attend those events, and so you can make an impression and they'll leave with your card, which plays into what you're saying, Jenna. You know, that event is your calling card. So they can call and book you when their company's doing an event.
Chamber of Commerce is fabulous. Absolutely worth doing.
So we are getting close. I don't know. Would you say like we can answer 3 more questions if they come in, and then we'll kind of shut this down for the.
There was a question about taking credit cards from Jill. How do you work with charge cards? Do you think cash only is a bad idea? If you can take cards, you know, you're going to make more money if you can take cards. Now, of course, you risk chargebacks and that kind of thing, and getting an actual merchant's account is not easy. But if you can find a way to work with cards, I would definitely do it. Yeah.
So I don't think I think cash is a great idea. I like cash, but I think with charge cards, like there's, it's tricky. You know, when I am in festival space, I do have like my Square reader that I put on my smartphone and swipe it. Though with Square, you have to be careful because tarot readings is against their terms of service.
Right.
And they can kick you out. So there's also the PayPal reader. PayPal will take everybody. They don't care. You can also get a portable charger through your brick and mortar bank. But most of the time I use Stripe. Stripe at this time does not accept tarot card readers. I was backdoored in from a political thing that I did. But usually when people book a reading with me, they have to put their credit card in, and then I run it at that time if they don't bring cash. But yeah, you need to have credit cards. I think if it's like a $5 thing, then don't bother. Like say, listen, pal, there's an ATM down the street. But if you're charging like $15 and up, yes, but also know that that's like at least 3% of your take. So then that's going into your business identity, which is, you know, you're gonna have to write that off. Then you're also gonna have to claim the taxes on that.
We claim the taxes on everything we take, Jenna.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, I recently heard about a reader who kickstarted and failed a deck, and now the IRS is after her for the whole amount.
Wow.
I am not naming names, but wow, she must have not have claimed any of that with the IRS, and she got a big.
Yeah, definitely do your taxes, people. You know, definitely be real about this. This is a real business. Pay your taxes. Do your thing. get an accountant, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Treat it like a business. Get your licenses. We'll talk about that if you come to our thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, we're allowed 2 more questions. Anybody? Anything come up?
Let's see.
Oh, thanks, Minabel, for the Google Pay. I have not gone to Google Pay yet. I'm going to check that out. Thank you.
Let's see. Someone wanted to know Serena wants to know what a burpee is. It's like a squat thrust, but you jump. It's a jump, squat, thrust.
It's to make your booty poppin', basically. To pop that booty.
Serena actually had another question earlier that we missed. How do you see the difference between giving guidance in a reading and simply seeing a snapshot?
I never understood the snapshot thing. I know people talk about it all the time, that a reading is a snapshot. I don't know what that means. I've never thought about it that way.
I don't understand how they're not the same thing. I guess I don't understand the terminology.
So is it a difference between, and I mean, it's an interesting question. Are we here to give information? Are we here to give advice? For me, I just say what the cards are saying to me and what Spirit is saying to me, filtering it through what is ethical and appropriate, and I think the client can hear in a way the client can hear it. But
is she talking about, like, for me, like, if I'm just wanting to look at what's going on and where we headed with that, then I move to Lenormand and I'll do like a grand tableau with Lenormand. But if I'm really wanting to look at spiritual influences, psychic influences, psychological influences, and advice, then I use tarot for that. Is that what you mean, Serena? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that we're getting there.
Yeah. Yes. She says yes and thanks. We did it. Okay.
Oh, yay. All right, good. All right, my friends, thank you so much for coming. We will be doing this again. And so now you'll know we do this again. You'll be able to squirrel away more questions for us so we can talk about new topics. I hope you guys found this interesting, and thank you for listening to us gab. No, thank you guys. Thank all of you. So much love.
Can we promote our books? We each have written a book on professional tarot, available on Amazon. Jenna's Have Tarot Will Travel. Mine, Fortune Stellar. You haven't read our book.
I'm working on Have Tarot Will Party. I swear to God, I'm going to try to have it done in time for Newts. I swear to God.
Perfect. And if there's any way you can come play with us at Newts, Northwestern Tarot Symposium, the Pro Development Day on Monday, I promise you, you will not regret it.
Yes.
Ladies, I know you don't have the date set for the next get-togethers like this yet, but what channel should people be watching to get that information when you're ready to publish it?
We've been publishing it on Tarot Nerds. It's been on both of our Facebook accounts.
And also the Northwest Tarot Symposium Facebook page.
Yeah. So if you're in one of those places, hopefully and then you have the event. So we'll have a Facebook event. We'll invite you when we have the next one up. And then it'll probably pop into our newsletters if you follow any of us with that.
Yes, it's in my weekly newsletter. And if you don't get my weekly newsletter, you can go to my website, christianagaudet.com, and sign up. This was kind of last minute. It was like, why did we think of doing this? Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, let's set something up. So it's not as like put together, but who's the person helping you? He's great. Thank you. Well, Rix, you've been... Rix. Thank you, Rix. Fabulous.
My pleasure.
Thanks for all your help. I feel sad. I feel like we could all have like a little slumber party and just keep this going. But I think
maybe that's another event. We've talked about retreats and stuff. We could do a slumber party.
All right, guys. Thank you so very, very much for coming. And hopefully we will see you again. And keep those questions and tarot on, my friends.
And happy holidays.
Bye, guys.